The bus company involved in the deadly Eastern Cape bus crash that claimed 25 lives has denied claims that the bus was overloaded. The Transport Department is investigating the fatal accident. Now, for more on the story, I'm joined from Cape Town by the Transport Department spokesperson, Ayanda-Allie Paine. Ayanda, good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. Where are the investigations? How close are we to coming up with some sort of outcome?
Thank you very much for having us. A very good afternoon to you, Stephen, albeit under very difficult circumstances. We do appreciate the opportunity you've given us to take the nation into confidence as to what's happening at the moment. I think you will appreciate that because of the sheer magnitude of this collision, it is going to be quite a difficult exercise for officials at the Road Traffic Management Corporation to really go through the circumstances that built up into this catastrophe that we had seen. I can tell you that the investigation is underway. It is happening in collaboration also with the SAPS, and I think confident that all law enforcement officials are doing their bit to make sure that if there is some blame that needs to be attached to anybody, be it those who are responsible for road infrastructure, be it those who are responsible for the vehicle in question, being the bus, that those consequences will be meted out and will be done so as a matter of urgency. I'm not at liberty to divulge exactly how far the investigation is at the moment. As you can imagine, it's quite a sensitive matter.
Ayanda, I mean, this is probably the result of, I'm afraid, a cocktail of sort of typical South African problems, in that we have many poor people who need to move long distances in South Africa, perhaps to go to work, perhaps for other reasons. There are very few buses. The buses aren't properly maintained, perhaps, for whichever reason. People will be in a hurry. No one wants to be the passenger who is left behind, so it becomes overloaded. The bus driver doesn't necessarily want to say to someone, you can't bring your child with you, and so the child has to stay behind. These are all very difficult problems. The reason I mention all of these problems is, unfortunately, it raises the potential of something like this happening again. Just a few years ago, there was the Sourceport Dam disaster. Over 70 workers died in that accident.
You know, Stephen, I'm glad you used the word cocktail, but it is quite correct, I must say. It is a multidisciplinary approach that will be needed in order to deal with such incidents and prevent them from happening in future. Now, you speak about infrastructure. Just to remind you that, of course, and I know you know this, that the national roads, the N1, the N12 and the like, are a responsibility of the National Department of Transport under the auspices of SANRAL. But the lower you go, you know, regional roads and the municipal roads belong to the jurisdiction, municipality or the province. And I think that's where the discrepancy sometimes comes in, where some officials at local level will say we just don't have the skills, the expertise, we don't have the capacity, or perhaps the tender has been given to someone who's not able to deliver, and then you find a poor quality road in that particular local level. But what we are seeing is that those who are not able to develop the road for whatever reason have started to come to national government and say, may we submit ourselves under SANRAL so that we can have this expertise at that level. I mean, Moloto Road is a perfect example. You'll know that the 3 provinces affected there, these include the very latest to hand it over to SANRAL being Gauteng. So we are starting to see that, and I think national government is also engaging with all spheres of government to make sure that there's consistency in the quality of the roads. But something else that you spoke about, you know, in this cocktail is the subsidies that are given out to your bus companies. And I'm using this in general terms, where you find that a national government will subsidize a bus to go into rural areas, collect some of your pensioners and your elderly to take them to town, etc. But that bus will only come once, perhaps, you know, just once in the morning, and then go to town and come back once. Now, how many people are in that area who need that transport? We should look into whether or not 2, 3, 4, 5 trips are warranted. So you're quite right. In order for us to prevent such things from happening, we need to go through the circumstances with a fine-tooth comb and make sure we never find ourselves in this situation again.
Right, Ayanda, I hate to say it, but I don't think anyone can make any promises, unfortunately. All right, are there any measures that the Transport Ministry is able to sort of implement in the short, in the sort of short term? I imagine the only thing we can really do is remind people to please check their buses, to count the passengers, and to try, by all means necessary, to try and keep the number of passengers to what the bus actually allows, what it will seat on long distances, and to try and keep speeds below the limit.
100%. Stephen, if we adhere to the rules of the road that urge us to refrain from overloading, from excessive speeds, that ask us to make sure that the driver of the vehicle is in a condition to be behind the wheel of a car or a bus, is certified to do so, is not someone who is not qualified to drive, that their vehicle is in a condition to be on the road. All those things that you have mentioned are the things that we keep preaching about. But if we have those basics in place, we will make sure that we reduce the carnage on our road. And I think something that's also equally important is the responsibility that we all have as a society to make sure that we report wherever possible, however possible, any instances such as these that we see. And we encourage South Africans to do so. And of course, we can't end this interview without sending sincere condolences to those who have been affected by this, to the family and the friends of the injured and the deceased. And we can assure you that government is doing all that it can to make sure that it assists those who have loved ones to bury. The Road Accident Fund was with Minister Mbalula in the Eastern Cape yesterday. We are also working hard, Minister Mbalula, to ensure that come July we see those regulations of ARTO come to pass, so that we can try and see how we can deal decisively with the lawlessness on our roads.
Indeed, spokesperson for the Transport Department and the Transport Minister, Ayanda-Allie Paine.